The place, New York City. The time, February 17th and 18th of 1996. The event, the very first tournament of the Magic the Gathering Professional Tour. 238 of the world's best Magic players arrived in New York City, all hoping to earn the right to call themselves the first professional champion.
I'm Paul Adder, UK Type 1 champion, 1995.
John Griggs from Pasadena, California.
I'm Elaine.
And where are you from?
Right outside New York.
Rawl, Missouri.
Wow.
Same place as Zach Dolan.
And where are you from?
I'm from Belgium.
Olympia, Washington.
I'm from Miami, Florida.
London.
Germany.
My name is Norman.
And where are you from?
I'm from Germany too.
I'm here to play Magic.
Here to play Magic?
Here to play Magic.
The festivities began Friday night as all the competitors were invited to a reception where they could meet both with their fellow players and with the tournament staff. The master of ceremonies for this event was none other than Magic the Gathering's designer, Richard Garfield.
It's pretty exciting. It's a lot of fun talking to the players, seeing what strategies they're evolving and what they think about taking Magic seriously, which is what they're starting to do.
I've put several hundred hours in.
I didn't sleep last night, playtesting with my friends.
I went on tour in Europe and went to all over Europe playing some of the top players.
I maybe spend, I should say, 6 hours a day at least.
I don't usually play Type 2, but I've spent like the last month just playing nothing but Type 2.
Some people are going to be able to make a good living this year through the full tournaments.
The format for the professional tour is designed to keep players on their toes, requiring competitors to adapt to a brand new format premiered at this event. A Type 2 variant, the format required that all decks include at least 5 cards from each of the available Type 2 sets. 4th edition, Chronicles, Fallen Empires, Ice Age, and Homelands. As a result, the competitors had a lot of interesting decisions to make. Staff Elias, the mastermind behind the Pro Tour, explains how the professional circuit elevates Magic the Gathering to a new and exciting level.
I really felt that that the game could support a high level of competition, and that at the highest level of competition you should be rewarded.
Once you give away money, it seems like the whole world says, oh, this must not just be a little game kids play. And so it's becoming a legitimate sport, something that, a respectable sport.
It's a sport in that it's highly competitive, and an intellectual sport like chess.
I can go and put 60 cards, any 60 cards I want, out of several thousand. I mean, that's a very intriguing possibility, that I am matching my wits, not just my gameplay, not just luck, but my own strategies, my own intelligence to try to defeat numerous opponents.
I take games very seriously. I have taken games seriously for a long time. The reason I take them seriously is because I consider them the intellectual counterpart to sports. I think they exercise your brain. I would love to see games raised to the stature of intellectual sports. I want to wish you all good luck, and I really want you to have a great time.
The tournament began with 7 rounds of Swiss-style play, with each match consisting of 3 duels. At the end of the 7th round, the top 16 ranked players all advanced to the finals, where they would fight for the championship title in a single elimination bracket. From this point on, a single match loss would result in removal from the tournament. The duels were hard fought, but in the end, only 2 players walked away with a spotless 7-0 record. Mark Justice, the 1995 United States National Champion, and George Baxter, renowned Magic strategy author. Although several big names such as Justice, Bertrand Lestree of France, Andrea Reddy of Italy, and Eric Tam of Canada managed to make it to the round of 16, the most interesting aspect had to be the number of new names entered into the bracket. The final 16 were Christopher Bishop from Charlottesville, Virginia, Jim Lemire from Southborough, Massachusetts, Sean Hammer Regnier from Manchester, New York, Eric Tam, the 1995 Canadian National Champion, Nathan Wildgrub from New York, New York, Bruce Swinney, the 1995 Northwest U.S. Regional Champion from Tacoma, Washington. Bertrand Lestree, the 1994 French National Champ and the 1994 World Championship finalist. Andrea Reddy, a member of the 1995 Italian national team. Preston Poulter from Irvine, California. Michael Loconto from Grafton, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. Leon Lindbach from Stockholm, Sweden. Sean Fleischman from the Bronx, New York. Dennis Bentley from Churchville, New York. Thomas Anderson from Täby, Sweden. Mark Justice, the 1995 U.S. National Champion from West Valley City, Utah. And rounding out the Sweet 16 is George Baxter from Dallas, Texas.
It's like the NCAA, you know, when it gets to March Madness, you know, you see those 15s upset the 2s and stuff like that, you know. So anything can happen at that point.
Well, I'm going to have to get lucky against Justice. I've seen his deck, and it's rough. It's rough. I can beat a lot of the players, I think, in the finals. But if I get paired up early with Justice, I'll be out of there probably. I've got to get hymns. I got to get the good draws.
I suppose luck, chance has got a big part at this level. You know, top 16. I guess the chance will make difference. Maybe also the sideboard. You know, good sideboard can do the difference. So I wait and see. I mean, I'm quite confident. I mean, I've done what I wanted to do to be in the top 16. So now, even if I lose, I mean, I'm happy. You know.
The only person that beat me was Bertrand, and he's a good player. I haven't played in any tournaments before, like of this caliber, and it was fun to meet him. He's like the top player that I played. So we'll see how things go. I think I can beat his deck. We'll see.
Here are the final 8 duels. We're going to take a look at them one by one. Mark Justice's red-white artifact deck was paired against Bruce Swinney, who fought hard against Justice but lost in a close 2-1 match.
I consider Bruce one of the top players in the world, you know, and so I was just very fortunate to get by him, you know.
So you looking to go all the way then? You looking to take this one?
One match at a time.
Yeah.
One match at a time, but every match gets closer.
Preston Poulter's green-white deck swept Thomas Anderson of Sweden in 2 straight duels. Michael Loconto, using a blue-white Millstone deck, faced off against Andrea Reddy of Team Italy. Loconto defeated Reddy 2-0. Canadian National Champion Eric Tam and his white-green-red Big Creature deck defeated Christopher Bishop 2-1. George Baxter, playing a red-black speed deck with a touch of green for Erhnamgeddon, took on Jim Lemire. Lemire succumbed to Baxter in 2 straight duels. We got Baxter's thoughts after the match.
Did you sweep him, or was it all 3 games?
I just went, you know, we just played 2 games and I beat him.
Were you worried going in?
Yeah, I'm always worried. I play like a rat in a cage, you know? It's like I always feel like I'm gonna die. I live with this total and complete feeling of I lack confidence, which is good because you fight harder and you're a lot more attuned. You know, it's like, I'm gonna die, I've gotta survive, I've gotta win.
Leon Lindbach and his speedy black deck took on local favorite Sean Fleischman. Lindbach edged out the local favorite 2-1. Afterwards, Lindbach gave us his thoughts.
Is there anyone in particular that you're looking to beat when you go up in the next couple of rounds? Anyone looking to try and play Mark Justice or someone like that?
I think I would lose to Mark Justice. He's really good. His deck is really strong. But I hope I meet the blue and white deck.
Former professional arm wrestler Sean Hammer Regnier and his blue-white Millstone deck was paired against Dennis Bentley. Regnier put the hammer to Bentley, sweeping him in 2 duels. Here were Hammer's thoughts.
Do you feel like the lights and the cameras and all the pressure makes any difference in the games?
Well, being from a big Hollywood state like New Hampshire, really no big deal. Actually, I wanted to be on stage because I said, what the heck, I'm going to go out, I'm going to go on the Blaze Glory.
Bertrand Lestree and his green-white deck went toe-to-toe against Nathan Wildgrub. Lestree squeaked out a victory against Wildgrub, 2-1.
Do you think that being on camera and under the bright lights will affect some of the players?
To tell you the truth, not for myself, but maybe for some of them, you know, because actually you have to be very concentrated on your game, and you have to focus, you know, and so sometimes if you are a bit concentrated, it can make the difference. But for myself, there is no trouble at all. I mean, I'm confident. I mean, I can play even with 200 people around me, with a camera, with whatever you want. I mean, I stay concentrated.
Tensions grew as the semifinals got underway. In each match, an unknown was paired up against an experienced tournament player. Preston Poulter faced his hardest battle of the tournament against favorite Mark Justice. Poulter gave us his thoughts on facing the U.S. champion.
I was like, I'm playing Mark Justice. There's no way. He's just going to stomp me and just go on about his business because I really didn't feel like I had that much of a chance.
It, however, was one of the biggest upsets of the tournament as he took 2 duels to Justice's 1.
I began to realize as I was sideboarding against Justice's deck that I really didn't think he could beat me in the second and third games because I essentially knew the key to his strategy and I could easily eliminate it. And so I felt I had a really good shot at it.
Leon Lindbach was matched up against George Baxter. In another upset of the day, Lindbach defeated Baxter in 2 straight games. Probably the most heated match of the semifinals, Lestree took on Regnier. Tying the match at 1 duel apiece when scheduled time ran out, they were given extra time to play 1 final game. The victor after a hard-fought game was Lestree.
I mean, this guy was really a great player, I can tell you. I mean, he was really good. And also, this guy, you know, has got I don't know if it's part of his strategy, but he's always talking, you know, he's talking and talking and talking. So at the beginning, you don't mind, but after, I guess, 1 hour and a half, I began to lose my temper. But I said, oh, no, don't play his game, don't play, stay focused on the game, stay concentrated.
The final match had Eric Tam playing Michael Loconto. Continuing the upset trend that came to define the quarterfinals, Loconto beat Tam in 2 straight duels.
First game, I really thought I had him. I knew he had control magics and counters everywhere. And he on around the 5th turn, I had him a quick man out, so I played a Star Angel. And he chuckled and he said, all right, I'll control it. But that time I only had 2 cards in hand. One was an Autumn, one was a Balance, and one was a Sword Splasher. So that's 3, sorry. So, you know, I swords my own angel after he controlled it. He walked right into my trap. Untapped my mana, played a land, balanced, tapped 6 mana in my pool, made him drop 6 cards. Played the Autumn Willow. I thought he'd be toast. I hit him like 6 times, I hit him like 4 times. He pulled like a Fountain of Youth, and then he recalled for a Wrath with only 1 white mana, and he drew a white mana on the very next turn, so he just pulled it out with what 4 hit points left. I thought I had him. Second game, the man's deck is decent. It's quite good. I mean, it stopped me completely.
Now, how are you feeling now? You're going into the quarterfinals. You're definitely already in the money, but definitely there's a lot of...
I feel pretty cocky. I'm ready. Because one of the guys that's also in it, I played earlier, and my deck did really good against his. And Bertrand is the only one that's beaten me, and I think he's still in it. So
yeah, Bertrand's still playing as we speak. So how do you feel about maybe the potential of playing Bertrand?
I think he's a good player. I think he's a really neat guy, and we got along good when we played. So I'd like to play him again. That'd be fun. Actually, I don't really want to play him again now that I think about it, but we may have to. Hopefully in the finals I'll play him.
By now, the players had played 15 hours of Magic over the last 24, hoping to make it into the finals. Leon Lindbach was paired against Bertrand Lestree. Every game was a hard-fought battle, but in the end, Lestree managed to walk away with 3 straight victories. The last semifinal match paired Michael Loconto and Preston Poulter. Loconto, after 5 long games, defeated Poulter. Both the finalists talked to us after their matches.
If you beat him, are you gonna gloat, or are you gonna?
I mean, I don't know. I've already beat him, so.
Well, he's the only one who's beaten me so far, so we'll have to see. We went 2 to 1. He won 2 to 1, so we'll have to see.
We've met before, and I mean, he's a nice guy. You know, he try. Sometimes he's a bit nasty sometimes, but it's part of his strategy. You know, when you play, he tries to upset you, but no, he's nice.
Wear the white hat, and I'm gonna wear the black one.
All right.
We'll see.
While the Open tournament was being held, competitors 18 years and younger dueled for the title of the first junior professional champion. The junior tournament followed the same structure as its older counterpart, with an identical prize payout using scholarship money in place of cash. 17-year-old Aaron Klein of East Windsor, New Jersey, playing a white weenie deck, was paired against 17-year-old Graham Tadimer of Santa Barbara, California, using a speed black deck. Klein proved victorious in the first game as his small white creatures overwhelmed Tadimer. Tadimer got off to another slow start in game number 2, but managed to turn the tide with Necropotence, allowing him to take the second game. The third game proved to be a carbon copy of the first game, as Klein once again got off to an overwhelming start and swarmed Tadimer before he could build up a proper defense. It was do or die time, and the pressure was on Tadimer in game 4. Tadimer fortunately got the cards he needed and managed to take the match to a final 5th game. Both Klein and Tadimer dueled admirably in Game 5, but in the end it was Graham Tadimer that managed to walk away as the first junior professional champion. The victor being awarded his $12,000 scholarship check by tournament coordinator Karen Christie. Hello, Magic fans, and welcome to the final match of the first ever 1996 professional tournament for Magic the Gathering. I'm Sean Carnes. Along ringside with me is Henry Stern. He's going to be our color commentator for the festivities. He placed second at the U.S. National Championships and was a semifinalist for the World Championships all last year. Henry, it's been one heck of a weekend so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, Sean, it has. There's never been this many quality Magic players gathered together for one tournament before ever. I thought last year's World Championships were big. This is even bigger.
I definitely have to agree with you there. Well, let me ask you a question, though, as a professional player, Henry. What type of preparation is necessary for an event like this?
Well, first of all, you have to come up with a quality deck design. As you know, this tournament, you're required to use 5 cards from all the available expansions in Type 2. You have to think about which cards you want to use, and also which cards your opponents might be using, thinking about how that might affect your deck design as well. Once you've come up with a quality design, you need to practice it against many of the touchstone decks, practice against white weenies and a red blast deck and maybe a control deck. Once, if it performs well then, you want to take it to a lot of your local tournaments and practice against as many quality opponents as you can.
All right, now, Henry, we're coming up on the final match. First off, we've got Bertrand Lestree from France. He's the 1994 French national champion. He placed second at the World Championships in 1994 as well.
Yeah, he lost to Zach Dolan in those finals in a very close match. Bertrand's a very, very strong player.
All right. Now he's going toe-to-toe against Michael Loconto from Boston, Massachusetts, a virtual unknown quantity on the Magic scene.
Yeah, although Michael's pretty well known in the Northeast area, he hasn't played in a very large major tournament before.
This is pretty much his first big tournament. Now, what can we expect from these two players?
To better understand what we can expect to have happen in this final match, let's take a closer look at both competitors' decks. Michael Loconto is playing a 62-card blue-white Millstone deck. This deck was designed to defeat an opponent not through damage, but by running them out of cards. He liked to control the environment and had a heavy creature suppression element.
Now, you mentioned creature suppression. What exactly is that?
Creature suppression refers to cards that are used to wipe out creatures, and Mike Loconto has a lot of them. He's using 4 Wrath of Gods, 4 Swords of Plowshares, a Balance, 2 Control Magics. All of these spells can be used to wipe out his opponent's creatures. And what's more interesting is he uses 2 Icy Manipulators and 2 Blinking Spirits and the Mishra's Factories. All of those can be used to help stall out the Stray's creatures should he get them out. Suppose Loconto has out 1 Icy Manipulator. The Stray has 1 creature, it can't attack. Thus the Stray would have to have out 2 creatures in order to attack. That makes Loconto's Wrath of Gods all the more effective. But what's interesting is, Loconto's deck has a very light permission element for this style of deck.
Now, when you say permission, what exactly does that mean?
Permission spells are any spell that you can use to counter your opponent's spells. Obvious examples are counter spells and power sinks and spell blasts. And Loconto is, interestingly enough, only using 4 counter spells and 1 deflection. Usually in this type of deck, you expect to see quite a bit more counter spells.
So what are the weaknesses of this type of deck?
Well, the main weaknesses I can see are opponents with a lot of spells that need to be countered. But typically these are sorceries, such as Erhnamgeddon, Hurricane, Fireball. Even Hymn to Torah could be a problem.
So what's the most unique thing about this deck?
Oh, by far the most interesting, unique, and innovative card in Michael Loconto's deck is the Hallowed Ground. This card can serve actually 3 purposes for him. 1, he can use it on his Mishra's Factories, effectively turning them into Blinking Spirits. If the Stray attacks, Loconto can turn his Mishra's Factory into a creature, and then with the Hallowed Ground, block, and then return it to his hand. Also, he can use it as protection from Erhnamgeddon. If the Stray casts Erhnamgeddon, if Loconto has out the Hallowed Ground and enough white land, he could be able to turn 1, 2, possibly even 3 cards to his hand, thus negating the effects of the Erhnamgeddon. And finally, the Hallowed Ground can be used to allow him to land tax. During his upkeep, if they have the same number of land, he can use the Hallowed Ground to pop one of his lands back into his hand, giving him fewer than the Stray, thus allowing him to land tax.
Okay, Henry, it sounds like we've covered Michael Loconto's deck pretty well. What kind of deck is Bertrand Lestree going to play?
Bertrand Lestree is playing a 60-card green-white Erhnamgeddon deck.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by an Erhnamgeddon deck?
Well, Erhnamgeddon refers to the 2 most important cards in the deck, the Erhnamgeddon and the Erhnamgeddon. His deck is really based around getting out a big creature, such as the Erhnamgeddon or the Autumn Willow that he has, or the Sarah Angel, and then casting Erhnamgeddon. When he casts Erhnamgeddon, destroys all the mana, makes it very difficult for his opponent to deal with that big creature he has out there. In addition to these big creatures, he has a number of small creatures as well. 4 elves, a couple of orders of Leap Bearer, 2 spectral bears. A lot of times these small creatures can get out early and do some damage too.
Wow, that's a lot of offense, but what does he have defensively?
Well, Bertrand's deck surprisingly has a very strong defensive element, almost as strong as Michael Loconto's. He also has 4 Swords to Plowshares, 2 Wrath to Gods, 2 ICs, 4 Disenchants, and a Balance. Interestingly, these decks share a lot of cards in common, all of them white.
Do you see any weakness in this deck design?
Well, one of the potential problems of this deck is that the only way he has of dealing damage is through creatures. If his opponent is able to set up an effective creature defense, he could find it very difficult to win. I think a Hurricane or 2 could go a long ways in this type of deck. Another problem is that he's not playing with the Feldon's Cane. You notice how his deck is set up to cast Erhnamgeddon, and he's also maybe using land tax to draw the land out of his deck to thin it down. In that type of deck, you really want to have a Feldon's Cane to get a second chance at all that land. And since Loconto's playing a Millstone deck, I think Bertrand will really wish he had a Feldon's Cane in his deck or in his sideboard.
Okay, Henry, these 2 decks are about ready to go head-to-head. How do you think they're going to interact with one another?
Well, it's going to be a very interesting match. Bertrand's going to try to quickly get out some creatures and hit Loconto fast, and Loconto's going to try to set up his defense, and he really needs to get out to 4 land quickly, because at 4 land is where most of his critical creature defense spells are, the Wrath of God and the Ice Manipulator. If Bertrand can come out fast and maybe cast an Erhnamgeddon, it'll be to his advantage, but if the game starts to stretch out long, I think Loconto's going to have the edge.
All right, thanks a lot, Henry, for that analysis. So let's go see what happened during game number 1.
So you were one of the dial-in...
And I got in once, and then I don't know what happened. I got connected to the wrong lady, and then it happened again, and I finally got through on my 3rd time. It took me like about an hour and 45 minutes of just redialing.
I understand you're wearing a team T-shirt. Can you show it to us?
Yes, of course. This is the French team T-shirt, and as you can see here, it's written in French, and it says, "Thank you for giving me money." And on the back, as you can see, the French team. And I mean, you know, it was just for fun because with all of the French friends of mine who's here today, we've just decided to be cool, you know, and to make fun of this.
This is the first game of the final match. We've got Lestree on the left, Loconto on the right. Both players get off to a big start right away by playing ivory towers on their very first turn. Henry Stern, can you explain the significance of the dueling ivory towers for us?
Well, Sean, both players were able to gain a lot of life off the ivory tower, and that certainly helps Loconto more than it does Lestree. Since Loconto's deck is based around running Lestree out of cards, he doesn't really care how much life Lestree has. But since Lestree can only win by getting Loconto down to 0 life, that ivory tower turned out to be a big problem.
Now we pick up the action a few minutes later into the game. Both players have been steadily gaining life off the ivory towers. Lestree's now at 25 life and Loconto's now at 30. Now Loconto, after he plays a Mishra's Factory, is going to bring out an Icy Manipulator, and what he does with it will be, as Loconto himself puts, something that will haunt him for the rest of the game. He's going to bring out the Icy Manipulator and tap a forest. Henry, two questions for you. First of all, why is that such a mistake? And second of all, why would he tap a land to begin with?
Well, he brings out the Icy, and then he uses it to tap Lestree's forest during Lestree's upkeep. And when he taps the land during his upkeep, he can't use it during his main phase. Generally, when you use an Icy in this way to tap someone's land, you want to deny them a color if you can. Notice he has 2 forests and 1 plains.
Right.
If he taps the plains, that means he couldn't cast any white spells during his main phase. But since he taps a forest, it just means that he can't cast a spell that costs 2 green to cast.
Was there anything in his deck that might have cost 2 green?
I believe he had Whirling Dervishes in his sideboard, but I don't think there was anything standard that cost 2 green.
Now, as Henry himself said, it leaves a white open for him to cast a white spell, and what a doozy he's going to cast. Right over there to the far right, that's Balance. Henry, tell us a little bit about Balance.
Well, Balance is certainly the most powerful spell in Type 2 right now. When you cast it, you have to equalize the number of lands in play, the creatures, and the cards in your hand.
Now, something interesting happens here after Lestree casts Balance. I noticed that they clear off all the land on the table. Can you explain why that's happening?
Well, what happens is Lestree casts Balance, and then he sacrifices his land to the Zurin Orb. Thus, he's using the Balance as an Armageddon. Since he sacrifices all of his land, gaining 6 life, now Loconto has to sacrifice all of his land too.
He gained 2 for the Ivory Tower, Lestree did, gained 6 more, puts his life total at 33. It's now the end game, folks, and it's a grueling hour and a half into the match. Right now, Bertrand Lestree's in a serious amount of trouble. You can tell by the look on his face. Why is he in trouble, Henry?
Well, he only had about 10 cards left in his library at this point, and he desperately needed to get a Plains to cast a Serra Angel.
With that Plains, he would definitely get out that Serra Angel, and he is attacking with the Elf at this stage right now. We'll get to the Serra in a minute. The life count was 35 for Lestree, 39 for Loconto. The Elf attacks, makes it 35-38.
Yeah, he needed to do a lot more damage than just 1 a turn with the Elf if he had any hope of defeating Loconto.
And at this stage, Lestree got out the Plains, got the Serra Angel into play, but with using the Elf as a little backup. My question to you, Henry, is why is Loconto not playing any cards whatsoever?
Well, what happened earlier is that Lestree set up this whole situation by casting Armageddon. And Loconto didn't want to play any land to this point because if he played a land, Lestree would be able to use his Felwar Stones to get out his creatures quickly. Loconto really wanted to he only had so few cards left in his library, he wanted to try to hold out and hope that Lestree would not be able to get creatures into play.
All right, it's back to Lestree's turn, and this time around he was going to attack with the Serra Angel. That'll drop the score to 34-34 even, but check out something here in his hand. By the way, why is he drawing 3 cards at a time there? What has he got?
Well, Lestree's been using the Sylvan Library.
I see.
Which, it allows you to look at 2 extra cards during your draw phase, and if you want to, you can pay 4 life per card to take those into your hand. And Lestree used that very effectively in the mid part of the game by trading in about 40 life or so for about 10 extra cards.
All right, there's an attack right there with the Serra Angel that drops it to 34-34, and he's also brought in an Autumn Willow, a 4/4 creature. Now, back to the idea about the life, he was able to get that much life through the use of his Ivory Tower. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, yet again, we go back to Loconto's turn, and Loconto discards another card. Apparently, he was sticking with a strategy right there, but it may be a little too late now that he has all those creatures out.
Yeah, at this point, Loconto really needed to draw Plains. He had a Swords of Plowshares in his hand, and if he could have swords either he could only swords the Serra Angel. If he could have swords that, he would have been able to hold on and win the game.
Right. And at this stage, he's pulling his creatures down. These are the ones that he's going to attack with. The Sarah, the Autumn Willow, and the Elf attack. And for a whopping 9 points of damage there, makes the score 34-25 at this stage. But the only hope that Michael Loconto's got, and there was the attack right there, the only hope that Michael Loconto's got at this stage is to run Lestree out of cards.
Yeah, he needed to draw planes so he could sort something. And he also probably should have been playing his lands earlier so that he could sacrifice them to the Zurin Orb.
Yeah, I noticed that. Lestree just tapped that Zurin Orb. Why would he want to do that?
Yeah, well, by doing that during Loconto's upkeep, he denies Loconto the ability to sacrifice a land to the Zurin Orb.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, notice he has a strip mine now. So that even if Loconto had played a land, he'd be able to strip it, and Loconto wouldn't gain the 2 life.
Wow, and he's got 2 icy manipulators, too. He's totally got Loconto. He had totally had him on the ropes at that stage of the game. Wow, and there goes Lestree's attack phase. A whopping 11 points of damage, but he's going to pump up the order to make it a total of 12, and that makes the score 34-13. And by this point in the game, Loconto pretty much knew that the game was over.
Yeah, he was really on the ropes at this point. If he'd drawn a plains, he would have been able to survive for perhaps 2 more turns.
Do you think, Henry, that would have been enough to run Lestree out of cards?
No. Perhaps if he'd played some of his lands earlier and sacrificed them to the Zurin Orb, and if he'd gotten the plains and he could have killed one of the creatures, he might have been able to hold out. But as it turns out, that didn't happen.
He even had a control magic in his hand, but that would have been quite expensive to bring into play.
Impossible, because Lestree had the 2 ices out.
That's true. And at this point in the game, Loconto decides he's going to go ahead and try and bring it out, but watch how effectively Lestree just shuts it down. First of all, taps it, making it effectively useless. Now, during Lestree's turn, he strips it, and while the Zurin Orb is tapped, he won't gain any life from it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. And that pretty much wraps up the game. You notice that he's collecting his cards. At that point, Loconto resigned. And the first game went to Bertrand Lestree of France, and that made the best-of-5 series start out at 1-0 in Lestree's favor.
Yeah, grueling match.
Like an hour and a half. Good grief. I have enough difficulty in 30-minute matches, but an hour and a half, wow. After the first game, our man on the floor, Mark Rosewater, spoke with the competitors.
So how are you feeling after the first game?
Not good. I'll be honest with you. I definitely should have won that game. I screwed up very early on. Made a major rookie mistake. When I had my icy out, he had 2 green and a white, and I tapped his green, and then he balanced and sacked all his land, and I lost control of the game right there. That game was mine. There's no excuse. I made a major mistake. And I see his sideboard is really tough. I don't know if I can, because when we played earlier, that's what killed me was his sideboard. I really wanted to take that first game from him. But we'll see what happens in the next game. I don't know.
Yeah, it was really, as you said, it was very close, you know. And I mean, maybe I was a bit more lucky because, as we talked about it before, he should have win the first game, because as he doesn't, he's got a lot of creature in his deck, and my deck's got a lot of anti-creature stuff, you know. So I've got a lot of dead cards against him. So as you know, when you've got dead cards in your deck with your opponent, when you play against your opponent, I mean, it's not a good thing. So I mean, I guess I was quite lucky, you know, very lucky to win this one, because to tell you the truth, if there is any probabilities or percentage, I should say, there is maybe first time there is maybe 70 for him and 30% for me, and I was more lucky the first time. So that's magic.
And now this was the second game of the series. Bertrand Lestree's on the left, Michael Loconto's on the right. Bertrand's going first this time, and something interesting happened right off the bat. Lestree played an elf, and Loconto responded by playing another ivory tower to match the one he played right after the beginning. Henry, Bertrand has a hard time dealing with those ivory towers. He's sort of unlucky.
Well, the ivory tower has been a recurring nightmare for Bertrand Lestree, going all the way back to the '94 World Championship.
Oh, wow. And that's where he lost to Zach Dolan, and one of the reasons is that Zach got out those ivory towers to begin with.
Yeah.
So, but this time, Bertrand's going to have none of that. He's going to play another land. He's got that disenchant in his hand, and he eliminated it right off the bat.
It was very, very important for Bertrand to stop that ivory tower right away.
Almost psychological to that aspect, too. It's sort of like, I'm not putting up with that garbage anymore.
Sure.
The players joking about it. A lot of good sportsmanship that went on in this event. And moving on to the second part of the game, at this point, you're going to really see Michael Loconto's deck in action. Notice, for example, that Bertrand has an Erhnamgeddon and an Autumn Willow in his hand. He's already got an elf in play, too. Now, correct me if I get wrong here, Henry, but Lestree's strategy is to pound him with creatures, while Loconto's is to merely hold off the creature attack, right?
Well, what Lestree wants to do is he wants to get out a sizable creature, either an Erhnam, a Sarah, an Autumn Willow, and then blow up all the lands, so you have no way of stopping them.
Right. Now notice, check out his hand here. He's got, Loconto has a Swords to Plowshares and a Wrath of God in his hand. Now he definitely can stop the creatures. The trick here is Loconto plays it in this order. He uses the Sword of Plowshares to take out the Erhnamgeddon, and then later when Lestree plays the Autumn Willow, he uses Wrath of God. Why did he do it in that order?
Well, the amazing part is Loconto really has no idea exactly what Bertrand has in his hand. I mean, it might make sense for most players to think, well, you can get out two creatures, why not go ahead and use the Wrath of God right now? But Loconto knows that Lestree plays with the Autumn Willow.
Right.
The Autumn Willow is really one of the scariest cards in Lestree's deck for Loconto to deal with. Loconto can only cast Wrath of God or counterspell the Autumn Willow on its way out. Once it's out there, he can't use an Icy to tap it, he can't use Serrated Arrows to make it smaller, he can't use the Swords of Plowshares on the Autumn Willow.
Wow, and especially at this point in the game, you've already seen the Swords of Plowshares eliminate the Erhnamgeddon. During Lestree's turn, he's going to bring out the Autumn Willow, and indeed, Michael Loconto uses that Wrath of God to clean the board, and that's really how Loconto's deck really works, and this is a good example of him taking control of this match in the middle stage of the game.
Yeah, the Wrath of God is a very key card for Loconto's deck. His deck is based around creature suppression, stopping the creatures immediately and not letting them get out and hurt them.
Now, during this particular match, would you say that this has been the pace throughout the entire game thus far? That Lestree tries to bring something out, Loconto shuts him down. Lestree tries to bring something out, Loconto shuts him down.
Yeah, it seemed like Loconto had an answer for all of Lestree's moves in the second game.
You can almost see he hasn't even played the card, but Lestree knows here comes that Wrath of God.
Yeah, and there's an important card advantage that you gain also from the Wrath of God.
Right now, we're moving into the final stage of the game. Now, this is sort of mirrors what we saw in the first game. Both sides are developed, but this time, Loconto has his cards in play, is not under the gun, but this time Lestree is. His library is running out. Now, does he have he's got the Sylvan Library in play. Your thoughts about this game thus far?
Well, also, he has the Erhnamgeddon in his hand, but he doesn't have the creature out yet to cast it.
So the object here is he's going to try and get out that creature, right?
Exactly. He needs to get out the creatures, and then once he had the creature out, he needed to cast Erhnamgeddon. But notice that Loconto is very well set up. He has an Icy Manipulator, which he can use to hold off at least one creature. He has a Mishra's Factory and the Hollowed Ground, and you can use the Hollowed Ground, like we explained in the introduction, to use the Mishra's Factory as a Blinking Spirit.
Right. Now, check this out. He just played an order. And what he's tapping to and increasing his life. Is he getting that off the
Fountain of Youth?
The Fountain of Youth. All right, there. Now back to Loconto's turn. He's got that Control Magic in his hand. You're going to see him play that on the order. Is that also a part of his strategy too? If he can't destroy him, he'll control him?
Again, it's just another anti-creature card. He's got the 4 swords, he's got the Control Magics, and extra Control Magics in the sideboard. He has the Wrath of Gods and the Ices. The whole deck is really set up to stop the creatures.
Okay, now this is kind of interesting too. With all these cards in his deck, Does Michael Loconto play with any millstones?
Oh yeah, he has 3 millstones as well. I mean, in this game, the millstones also came out earlier, but Bertrand was able to disenchant them in this game.
I see. Wow. So Bertrand Lestree plays with at the maximum 4 disenchants in his deck?
4 disenchant standard, and I believe he had 1 or 2 divine offerings in his sideboard.
Wow. Also, to check out Lestree's Black Vise there. Black Vise goes by the affectionate name Squishy.
Yeah, Squishy. Well, notice what Bertrand is doing here. He has very few cards in his library left, and he's using the Sylvan Library and the Land Tax to shuffle up his lands. So what happened last turn is he used the Sylvan, he saw what his next 2 cards were, didn't like them. He has less land than Loconto does, so he was able to use the Land Tax purely just to shuffle up his library. Wow. He doesn't have any more basic land left. He just used it to shuffle his library so he would get 3 new cards.
Wow. Interesting strategy indeed. Apparently, Bertrand Lestree is a little bit disgusted about what's going on right now. Things are definitely not going his way.
Well, it is actually very close. He's able here to disenchant the control magic.
He does get back the order.
He gets back the order. He had the Erhnam in his hand. I mean, it's really fairly close to the last game. The only difference is in this game, Loconto is well set up with all that land in play.
So we go now to Michael Loconto's turn, and on this particular turn, let's take a look at what he's going to do.
Both competitors spent a lot of time thinking about their moves. Since there wasn't a time limit, unlike the qualifying rounds, there was a very severe time that you had to play rather quickly. Here, they're able to really think through all their moves, and he decided just to let Lestree go ahead.
Wow, both of them got just their faces wrought with concentration. Well, Henry, you were in the finals of the U.S. Nationals, and you were in the Worlds. Give us a little insight into what it is to be at this sort of level of competition.
Well, there's an intense amount of pressure. I mean, you've been playing for 8 hours already this day, and hours and hours the previous day. It becomes easy to make mental mistakes. It becomes easy to get mentally fatigued in a situation like this.
Wow. Back on Michael Loconto and Bertrand Lestree.
Yeah, he used the ice manipulator there to tap the order so it would do no damage.
Right. Okay. So basically, with his cards that he has in his hand and the ice manipulators in play, he's definitely shutting down. But now, at this point, Lestree played the Erhnamgeddon that was in his hand. He finally chose to pull it out of the cards he was selecting through Sylvan Library.
Yeah, and if Loconto had no way of dealing with the Erhnamgeddon, and if you look in his hand, in his hand he doesn't directly have any anti-creature cards.
Now he's looking through his graveyard. Why is he doing that there?
Well, this is a move that the good players do often, especially when you're playing a very slow deck. You want to get an idea of what cards have already gone by and what most likely is in Bertrand's hand. And notice that now that he has the ice, he has a disenchant, a Mishra's, and a recall.
And he disenchants at Sylvan Library.
Sure.
I guess he's going to try and at least shut him down to some respect. And Lestree only has like 4 or 5 cards left, right?
Right. But 4 or 5 cards, even with an order that you could pump up to 3, is enough turns left.
Well, and yeah, that's true. That's true, and especially at their low life totals right now.
Right. He had the counterspell, he had the Mishra's, and the recall. Turns out that the recall was certainly the key card for him.
Yeah, definitely. What Henry makes mention of, he's got a recall in his hand. At this point in the game, it can go either way, but when Michael Loconto uses that recall to shove off one of the cards in his hand, he draws into his hand from his graveyard Balance. And we all know how deadly Balance can be, especially in this stage of the game.
Yeah, Balance... Once again, Balance is certainly the most powerful Type 2 card left in the game, and being able to cast it twice in one game, certainly an advantage for Loconto.
Tom Wiley being the head judge for this match as well. Loconto's turn. Any comments come to your mind at this stage, or is it just pretty much a waiting game to see what happens?
Well, again, he tapped the Erhnam.
Right.
He got hit for 2 with the order. And he's actually kind of worried here about the possibility that he might have 2 Armageddons or might have 2 spells to cast. So he went ahead and recalled the Balance at this point.
Yeah, it looks like, after he takes the damage, then I believe on this coming turn, Michael Loconto did indeed use that recall, and that pretty much, and then that in my opinion pretty much wrapped up the game.
Yeah, Bertrand here was checking to see how many anti-creature cards had been used, how many swords had gone by, how many Wrath of Gods had gone by, and he's got to feel pretty good, because as he looks at it, he sees 3 Wrath of Gods. I think Loconto had already used 4 swords, so Bertrand decided to go for it and put out that Djinn and hopefully try to get him down in these last couple turns.
Wow, yeah. Do you know if in the first game he had encountered that recall?
I don't think. Well, I don't recall if in the first game the recall had been cast or not.
Well, yeah, that's kind of interesting. Actually, these two players before this final series had met before in the tournament.
Sure. I mean, Bertrand certainly knows that Loconto has a recall in his deck, but it's difficult to predict if it was in his hand or not.
Right.
See, now Loconto's actually nervous because with just that one Icy, he can hold off 1 Djinn, but the other Djinn and the Order could do 6 points of damage a turn.
Right. Right, and that's certainly enough, at least at their low life levels, to eliminate Loconto from the game.
Yeah, even though Bertrand only had 2 cards left in his library at this point.
Wow, he certainly plays it close to the bone, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, well, both of these players, to get to this point, you can't be a bad player.
Right.
The bad players were eliminated a long time ago. Both these players are top Magic players.
I think I'll be sticking to the old game shop. And at this point, he does indeed, finally, we've been highlighting it, and here it is. He plays the recall. Now, recall's interesting. It sort of acts like a regrowth, but it's a little different. Can you explain why?
Well, when you use recall, it is in fact very similar to regrowth. The thing is, it costs blue and X, where the X is equal to the number of cards you wish to get back. And in order to get a card back, you have to sacrifice a card from your hand to the graveyard.
So in this case, he's only wanting to get 1 card back, but because there are 2 X costs, you have to pay 2 mana of any color in addition to the blue?
Right, so you had to spend 3 mana to cast the recall.
And indeed, he gets back that balance, and thinking he's always double, triple checking here.
Well, you don't want to make any mistakes at this level.
And indeed, he does play the balance at that time, and that pretty much wrapped it up. There's a little bit of land balancing and hand balancing they need to do, but the big thing, the creatures were removed.
Sure, and Bertrand only had now, I think, 2 cards left in his library, so he knows that the game is basically over.
Even at this stage, you know, it would be my opinion that he would just probably like, no, okay, well, the game is over, I might as well go and concede. But he plays on a little bit.
Well, he wants to see what his next card is, but I believe he conceded soon hereafter.
Yeah, definitely. This was a tight game, and I really think that this was a good example of Michael Loconto's deck in action. The denial, the ability to get rid of a creature when it comes out, the ability to control a creature either by tapping it or by using control magic to get it if it's going to be in play. Any additional thoughts, Henry?
Yeah, well, that is in fact the essence of Michael Loconto's deck. It's creature suppression, stop the creatures, and the rest of the game will come to you.
And this is pretty much icing on the cake here for Michael Loconto. He goes ahead.
Yeah, notice how he's using the IC to tap one of Bertrand's land just in case he got out a creature.
Yeah, and he noticed that Bertrand himself drew a Swords to Plowshares. But other than the Mishra's Factories, which can turn into creatures, do you know if Loconto was playing with any creatures whatsoever?
Well, he had Blinking Spirits, which Bertrand doesn't know this, but I believe Loconto took the Blinking Spirits out of his deck.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, and he also has the Control Magics. So if he controls an Erhnam or if he controls a Sarah Angel, that could be a problem for Bertrand.
and indeed it might as well have been, because that wrapped it up right there. Bertrand Lestree resigns the match to Michael Loconto, and that makes the match 1-1 out of this best-of-5 series. Once again, our man on the floor, Mark Rosewater, talks with the competitors after the game.
It was really close. I mean, I've done a few mistakes. Really, I've did few mistakes. Especially, I had Erhnamgeddon in hand and Erhnamgeddon, and I look at his graveyard and I saw, all right, he's got 4 Sword Pusher, 3 Wrath of God, 1 Balance. So I thought, I'm all right. I mean, he's gonna counter this spell, but there is. I guess he couldn't Wrath of God it or whatever, and so I played this card thinking he's going to counter it, but he didn't, and he did recall and take balance. That's killed me. And instead of that, what I should have done is played Erhnamgeddon first, because I mean, if he counter Erhnamgeddon, I mean, all right, I can have played my creature after that. You know what I mean? But and I could have won because actually he didn't have counters in hand. So I do Erhnamgeddon and I attack. So I've done a few mistakes and that's what I lost. And I mean, he's really great. I mean, he's a good player. So I know one big mistake, and you lose. That's it. That's the rules. That's magic.
I'm doing a lot better now mentally. I'm with it. Long games though. That's the problem. My deck's real slow. Slow and steady wins the race. That's what I tell you.
What point in the game did you really feel that you had it won?
When he gave up. That was it. He didn't know if what he was gonna do at the end.
Basically, we're in a situation where we had two very closely and evenly matched decks. They're competing against each other. Both of them, shall we say, white control decks. They're specializing in being able to maintain control over their opponent. The unfortunate situation with that is that it has led to excessively long games in our match. During the break after the second game, I approached the players and tried to discuss some options with them on what they thought would be equitable and fair. They have come to the decision that they're going to play an additional game since they're evenly tied at 1-1 each. And that game will go for the championship of the first Pro Tour here in New York City. And they both decided to split the purse for both second and first place.
Welcome back, Magic fans, for this third and final game of the Pro Tournament 1996 in New York City. And this match is getting underway. Henry, real quickly, any thoughts?
Well, we've had two grueling matches so far that have come right down to the wire. I don't see any reason why this match won't also take a while.
All right, right off the bat, both guys have played planes. Going into his second turn, Bertrand.
Again, Bertrand chose to play first again.
Interesting. Plays a Flower Stone. Over to Loconto. Matches it up. Wizard School and Divine Offering. That's going to change the life total. It's 20 for Bertrand, 22 for Michael.
It's an interesting choice to Divine Offer the Flower Stone. Flower Stone turned out to be a problem for Loconto in the first game because he couldn't play lands after Erhnamgeddon because he didn't want to give Bertrand the mana from the Flower Stones.
Interesting enough. Plays a Strip Mine.
Loconto seems like he has two more disenchants in his hand.
Wow, his hand is chock full of disenchants.
Yeah, that might have also been a reason why he chose to disenchant the Flower Stone.
That's true, that's true.
He's really a little more afraid of the Icy Manipulators and the Land Tax, but since he had the other two disenchants in his hand, I think it makes sense to get rid of the Flower Stone.
Just as we were talking, out came a millstone, and away went a millstone. That thing was in and out quickly.
Yeah, but Bertrand doesn't like to see the millstone out there.
Would not blame him at all. All right, he's got 3 planes and a strip mine in play.
Yeah,
he's going to use that strip mine to take out the
runes of Tricare.
Yeah, runes of Tricare,
which he could have sacrificed for 2 white. It seems like Bertrand's having a little trouble getting out the green mana here. Wow. It seemed like he had a lot of good green spells in his hand, but he couldn't. He can't cast any of them.
Out comes another millstone. It looks like Bertrand's not going to be able to do anything about that.
But he is able to slap down an Erhnamgeddon.
Wow.
That gives Loconto something to think about.
It's Loconto's turn.
Yeah, both players seem to be playing a lot faster now.
Oh, yeah. The play is definitely at an accelerated rate. Loconto plays a Land Tax.
Interesting.
It's now Lestree's turn. Lestree draws another Strip Mine.
Very interesting. I wonder what Lestree's going to choose to strip here.
Wow.
If he strips one of Loconto's lands...
He's stripping that...
well, hold on. He's deciding.
Yeah.
Actually... Potentially the stronger move might be to strip mine his own lands. That way Loconto couldn't land tax.
But indeed he's going to take out the... It looks like he is taking out the...
It's really, the rules. Yeah, it's really rather irrelevant which one he chooses to strip mine. Right. Because Loconto will just be able to land tax and get more of those lands anyways.
Right. Maybe he shouldn't have even just played it himself, but like do a Hernandez trick. Right?
Yeah, I think that what Loconto was wondering about there is he was asking... He seemed like he chose the island first and then wanted to switch it to the plains. I believe Tom Wiley said that since he hadn't let go of the strip mine yet, the spell wasn't, or the fast effect wasn't successfully finished.
Okay, Bertrand's Erhnamgeddon attacks. Makes the score 19-18, but he used the brush land to bring up the Sylvan. That ties his game up at 18 up.
Yeah, remember how in the first game he was able to use that Sylvan Library to draw a lot of extra cards near the end of the game. I don't think, since Loconto has a disenchant in his hand, it surprised me if that Sylvan Library stuck around for a long time.
Wow.
Although I don't think he had any creature removal cards directly in his hand right now. See if we can get a look at it.
His hand, Loconto's hand's just chock full of disenchants right now. He's got 3 of them in his hand. All right, he plays a plains.
All right, I think he has a Wrath of God in his hand.
Ooh, that might be helpful. And he's gonna he's gonna disenchant the Sylvan Library. Enough of that drawn 3, take 1.
Yeah, but an Armageddon on Bertrand's part at this moment would be very strong if he has one.
It's 18 up, but here comes that Erhnam, and it looks like it's going to be unmolested with, and indeed, he's going to have to take it. That drops the score, 18 for Bertrand, 14 for Michael Loconto.
Does he have the Armageddon? Apparently not. If he had it, I'm sure he would have cast
No,
it.
he would have whipped that out by now, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So now this will be the second chance. He's taking his turn.
Yeah.
This is the second time he's land taxed here. That's 6 additional lands that he's been able to draw out of his library.
Wow.
Now that really hurts Bertrand's strategy for Loconto to be able to land tax like mad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shuffling up the cards.
I mean, it's a 6-card advantage for Loconto. Also, later on in the game, it makes it so that his deck is thinner now, that it's just more chock full of good stuff. He's more likely to draw the swords and the Wrath of Gods that he needs to take out the Erhnam. Plus,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Plus, it also really nullifies the effectiveness of the Armageddon.
All right, there's 2, 2, and 2, and that's Wrath of God. That Erhnamgeddon's going to go take a nap for a while.
God is angry. Erhnam is dead.
It's Lestray's turn.
Score still 18-18?
Yeah, no, it's 18-14. Yeah, it's 18-14 because he did get in an attack with that Erhnam.
He still has no creature removal directly in his hand.
God, those disenchants are just chalking up his hand.
Yeah, he does have a counterspell.
Well, that will be, and he does have the 2 blue.
Right, which I'm sure he's saving up for either the Autumn Willow or Armageddon.
Tapping a green. Looks like he's going to take a point off the brushland, a little painland action there. Definitely. Here comes a Whirling Dervish, and boy, tell us a little bit about the Whirling Dervish. We've heard so much about it.
Well, the Whirling Dervish is especially strong against a black deck because it has protection from black.
Right.
But also, if it's left unmolested, the Whirling Dervish can grow to enormous proportions. Every time it attacks and is not blocked, it gets a +1/+1 counter, and he doesn't have anything in his hand to stop it right away. This Erhnam could potentially cause a lot of trouble for Loconto.
Yeah, but Loconto's going to play a Mishra's Factory, hopefully deterring Lestree from attacking with that. But the scores right now, Lestree has 17 and Loconto has 14.
Yeah, the Mishra will be able to block the Whirling Dervish, and since the Dervish is just a 1/1, and the Mishra, when activated, will be a 2/2, it should be able to take it down.
All right, it's Loconto's turn. Loconto is going to...
Swords to Plowshares.
Lestree plays Swords to Plowshares on Loconto's Mishra's Factory, so that bumps up the score to 17-16, but the Dervish is going to attack, dropping it down to 17-15, I believe.
Yeah, now the Dervish is a 2/2.
Wow.
So if he brings out another Mishra's Factory, it won't be able to successfully block.
Michael sure could use a creature removal card at this point in the game, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, if he doesn't draw something quickly, that Dervish certainly is going to be a lot of trouble.
Oh, was
that was.
Oh, Armageddon, but it was counterspelled.
Yeah, of course. He's got to.
Oh wow, that could have been the game right there.
Certainly, but that's the main reason the counterspells are in his deck, is to stop those must counterspell spells.
Right.
For Lestree, it's the Armageddons and the Autumn Willows.
Right. I believe he attacked with the Dervish again, so that drops the score to 17-13, and that Whirling Dervish is now a 3/3 critter.
Yeah, he'll be dead in 3 turns unless he draws something to stop it.
Wow.
And he has nothing in his hand.
Oh boy.
Well, he does
Cupboard is bare.
Yeah, he does have a recall on the very left, so he could recall a Wrath of God.
That or Swords to Plowshares or something.
I don't think he's
he
hasn't drawn a Swords to Plowshares yet.
Oh yeah, that was my bad. That was Lestree.
Yeah, it's a tough choice here. Does he? What does he recall, or does he use the recall?
Yeah.
Does he get the Wrath of God for the Erhnamgeddon? That's definitely a problem. Does he get a counterspell to stop an Armageddon, which would also be a serious problem?
Well, he'll have to tap a minimum of 3 lands to get that out, right? And even though he has Wizard School in play, he needs 1 available mana of any color to turn it into the blue he needs for a counterspell.
Right. If he casts recall, he won't be able to cast a counterspell this turn unless he plays another land.
Wow. So he's tapping
blue and 2.
Blue and 2 white.
Yeah, it must be the recall. Interesting. He has two choices here, really. One, what from his hand does he want to sacrifice for the recall? And two, what card does he want to get back? Really, the only logical choices are the Wrath of God and the counterspell.
Yeah, so he's going to sacrifice a plains, and he's going to get back a counterspell.
Interesting. Oh, and he plays an outer card waste.
Right, so it gives him a little more land now.
Well, also, that means he can also counterspell.
Right,
That's
right, definitely. So here comes Bertrand. I wonder what he drew. All right, he's going to attack with the Whirling Dervish. Wow. This game is definitely going a lot more rapidly.
Oh, we can't see, but 2 more cards. He has been able to millstone a lot more in this game than he was able to in the second.
Wow. Draws another disenchant.
Oh, that's his 4th disenchant.
Wow,
he
all
really
4 of them
needs,
came up fast.
Yeah, that counterspell's not helping him out too much. He really needs a Wrath of God.
Yeah, he plays a Mishra's Factory. The turn before, Lestree had played a Finhorn Elf.
Now he'll be able to check both. Ooh, it looks like he has an Armageddon in his hands. Swords, Plowshares, and an Armageddon. Wow. If he's able to successfully cast that Armageddon, that could definitely be game over.
All right, both creatures attack.
Yeah, Loconto has an interesting choice here. He can activate the factory, and it looks like that's what he's doing. And if he activates the factory, he has to choose which creature to block. If he blocks the Whirling Dervish, the factory will die, but it'll hold off the Dervish for a round, and the Dervish won't get bigger for a round. If he blocks the Elf, he can actually kill the Elf.
It's 17-13 right now.
And Bertrand just swords the Plowshares, the factory.
Oh, wow.
So that means that both creatures will get through, unless, of course, Loconto chooses to use his counterspell to stop the swords.
Now, would it be wise for him to use a counterspell at this point?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, now Bertrand only has 1 card left in his hand. If that 1 card is an Armageddon, and we know it is, then he certainly wants to save the counterspell for that.
Wow.
But since he doesn't know what that card is, you know, counterspelling the swords will actually stop the factory to be able to block the Elf. And then the, you know, he might have enough land to stop the Dervish next turn.
Yeah, Michael Loconto simply does not know, and he's got to go with a gut call here. Is he going to counter it?
This is a really tough choice. He's checking his graveyard here to see what spells he's already cast, to think about what he's likely to draw. He's only drawn so far the 1 Wrath of God. He has 3 more Wrath of Gods and 4 more Swords to Plowshares.
Wow, that Wrath of God's not going to mean much if that Armageddon flies on the table, though.
Yeah, he's asking Tom Wiley here about the Dervish, and if it's unblocked, does it go through and get another counter?
Tom Wiley is the head judge for this one. Bill Rose sitting in on this one as the table judge.
Yeah, Loconto also asked Tom Wiley that if he blocks with the Dervish, can he then pump it up to be 3/3 so that he could potentially block the Whirling Dervish? The thing is, if he, since he just brought out the Mishra's Factory, he can't he can activate it to turn it into a creature to block, but since he just brought it out last turn, and he hasn't started a turn with it in play, he can't use it to pump itself up on this turn.
He is going to counterspell the Swords to Plowshares. That leaves the Mishra's Factory in play. This may come back to haunt him, but we'll have to find out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, definitely Bertrand's going to cast the Armageddon.
Yeah, he definitely, the light is green and the trap is clean on this one.
Now Mike Loconto has to decide what he wants to block.
What do you think he'll block?
Oh, I think at this point he's going to stop the Elf, because if he blocks the Elf, he'll actually kill it.
Right.
If he blocks the Dervish, he could just stop it for a round, but his factory would go.
And maybe hopefully he'll draw a Swords to Plowshare or something like that to take out the Dervish.
He's going to need to draw something. Yeah, here he's asking Tom Wiley that can he tap the Mishra's Factory to pump it up to be a 3/3 creature, and what would happen if he does. If he did, it would be 3/3 and it would be tapped. So on defense, when a creature is blocking, if it's tapped, it deals no damage, but it still receives damage. However, technically he can't even pump it up because he did turn it into a creature. Oh, and he really shouldn't be using the Mishra here to tap the Millstone, since the Mishra was a creature.
The Dervish went through. It's now 17-10.
Interesting. I think that one might have gotten by Tom Wiley. However, he did have the Wizard School out, so it was rather irrelevant.
Yeah. Out comes Serrated Arrows.
Serrated Arrows, interesting. It seemed like, did Bertrand not have the Armageddon in his hand?
I don't know.
I thought I saw an Armageddon there. If he'd had it, I'm sure he would have cast it.
He might. If he has it, he'll probably do it next turn.
The Serrated Arrows are interesting. It'll be able to sort of keep the Dervish at a 3/3 level, at least for 3 turns. But after that, the Dervish will continue to...
He technically could have played in this Pro Tour and maybe 1 or 2 others. He started that summer.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Michael Loconto.
But it's funny because I remember you said before you started, you go, I want to play in Worlds. And one less hurrah, then I'll start. And you went out with a bang. That was a good.
That was exciting.
Now, do you think he'll play?
I remember the picture of you in the mana pool, like surfing in the mana pool.
What do you think's going to happen now?
Well, he could play the land, play the Fountain of Youth. But it seems
I always wonder what would happen if you draw the force.
For Worlds?
Right now, Bertrand certainly doesn't want to play any more land.
Still
so
joining.
he can really do
land
something.
tax, right.
Yeah, because Loconto has a land tax out, and he doesn't want to allow him to land tax.
So what game are we in? I lost track.
I think we're in game 3.
Are we in game 3?
I think we just had the It's Armageddon. That's Armageddon.
That's Armageddon. Yeah, the first 2 games are pretty quick on the video just because we wanted to play the full game out like in its entirety. And the third game, I think, actually, ironically, was the quickest game.
He's really not paying any attention whatsoever to.
And it's kind of neat. There's a lot of back and forth that definitely like.
Card count in the library.
There's definitely moments where like one player's ahead and then it shifts and another player's ahead. And like I said, if you didn't know the outcome of this video, and for those who don't, I won't tell you. You don't quite know who's going to win this. Definitely, there's some back and forth.
Michael Loconto plays that.
It's also fun seeing some of these old cards. Like I haven't played with some of these cards so long. Like I said, Land Tax I have a fondness for. Control Magic I actually have a fondness for. We don't let you steal things that cheaply anymore.
Incredible.
Yeah, again, he's choosing not to. I think it looks like he's trying to decide.
Here's another funny story. You remember this one? So we do promotional pictures. So we decided that we invited a bunch of players that we thought were good. So the day before, we took a bunch of people that we flew you out right to the first PT, didn't we?
That's true. Yeah.
I really think
yes, because I think we had the short list, and there were guests that got invited, and the special guests that we flew out. And you were one of the special guests, and they took you for photo ops. Remember this?
Yes.
Out on the ferry.
Yeah.
And there's a great shot of you and Justice playing on the ground of the ferry, playing Magic on the ground.
That was back in the days when all pictures of Magic players had to have them holding up cards in the camera as well.
Yeah.
You look back then, it's like every single picture of anyone playing Magic, they're holding up cards.
Back in vogue though. The last.
Well, it's funny. Some of the people were doing that in their Pro Tour player cards.
Yeah. Well, it's because of the coverage of the last Pro Tour, like the top 8, each person holding like the key card for them, holding it up. In fact, the classic one is Spin Magazine did an article, and the article was focused on Stephen O'Mahony Schwartz and John Chinnock, and it was crystal clear that Steve, for example, they really wanted to sort of play up the stereotype. And the funny thing is that Steve very much plays into the stereotype, and John very much plays against the stereotype. And they had not a single picture of John. Like Steve's the poster boy. They had like V. It really was unfair. Like the reporter wanted to sort of show the stereotypical image, and whenever she had things that contradicted it, she just ignored it and didn't show it.
All right, a little update.
But it's fun watching the coverage. The coverage has changed a lot. I remember with the Pro Tour, we were trying, like one of the points of the Pro Tour is the marketing vehicle, right? To get people to sort of, explain what Magic is and sort of say to people, look, there's people making a lot of money. And early on, people didn't quite know what to make of us. And I think as we've gone along, we've gotten better at sort of explaining what we are. But there's some funny articles from the early days. But one of my favorites was the first PTLA, maybe the second PTLA. We had the independent paper of what's the independent paper LA called?
All right, so
the Stranger?
Or the Arrows was
that LA?
It's one of them. Yeah.
I think it was the Stranger.
LA Weekly.
Or LA Weekly. One of the two. Did this expose on Magic and just sort of, talked. It's very like it wasn't even about us playing cards. It was about sort of the subculture and the interview. It was like all about the all the stuff behind the scenes rather than the actual playing of the game.
It really
but it was very fun.
Sliding into Lacan's hand here. He has a Wrath of God. He has a counterspell. It's It's interesting how, when these games really slow down like this,
It took a while.
I think it's
How long was the finals again? You said 4 hours total? They only played 3 games, right?
They played 3 games. It was over 4 hours, I think. I think the first 2 games were 4 hours. Because Bill, like I said, went out to dinner, went out to a leisurely dinner, and came back and is judging game 3. So let's talk about this a little bit. So, what happened was originally we were playing 3 out of 5, and we get done with game 2, and we're looking at our clock, and we're we had to be out of the hall at midnight or something, and we're looking and we said, okay, if the next 3 games took as long as the first 2 games, we're not going to be out. Literally, we're not going to be out in time. And so we got everybody to agree that we would just play for. We just had one more game.
Yeah. You asked the players, right?
No, the players agreed. As they explained on the tape, they actually split the money, but they were playing for the title, which ironically was probably a pretty big deal because the first Pro Tour. And so they played for the title. And the last game was the quickest of the 3, although even this game took an hour.
The elf is really just going to be offset by the Fountain of Youth. So
Bertrand Lestree never got 100
but he has the disenchant, and it wouldn't surprise me to see.
I don't know.
Is that on the ballot?
I don't think he's on. Yeah, he's not on the ballot. So I don't think he quit early. He only played the first season or 2. In fact, it's funny because he got invited to the first Invitational, and he had quit the game, and he's free trip to Hong Kong. Okay, take the cards out of. In fact, him and the other guy named Emil Feldman, who was a 3-time Swiss national champion, also got invited because we were trying to find some non-Americans to invite. And he was the only 3-peater we had, and
he wore some crazy suits.
Yes, and literally he's free trip to Hong Kong. He ended up coming in last because he did 0 preparation. Oh, here's a funny Bertrand story. So in the Invitational, one of the formats we did was called. I guess we call it backdraft, where the idea is draft the worst deck you possibly can, and then when you play your opponent, you swap decks. So, in the whole tournament, Bertrand only won 3 games, and the 3 games he won were that format. And our joke was that no one told him it was backdraft.
God, that's mean.
Now, to be fair, Lestree was a good player in his day, just he had given up the game, so he was completely unfamiliar with the cards. And so it's kind of fun. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Emil obviously won Swiss National a bunch of times, so I can't speak for Emil. But Lestree in his day, especially in '94, even here, he was very good. In fact, there's a running joke for a while because what happened was Lestree came in second in '94. Hernandez, who's also from France, came in second in '95. Then Lestree came in second, and there was this running joke for a while: the French couldn't win; that they just came in second. And it wasn't until San Diego with Fred Merengue, that finally broke the French Pro Tour curse, if you will, and finally had a Frenchman came in first. And then since then, I think Antoine Roel, won a Pro Tour. Livy came in second, but that doesn't help Christopher.
That's going to up his life count to.
But it was a running joke for a while. There were a whole bunch of seconds that were, French seconds.
Oh, yeah, because the brush line to do it, so
this didn't help the cause. In fact, I felt bad for Bertrand. There have only been 3 major Magic tournaments ever. He came in second in 2 of them. Which, ironically, probably means it's the most impressive stat of all. But not to win it. I always felt bad for the pro players, like Justice, Ben Rubin. There's a bunch of players who were good and made the finals of 2 different Pro Tours and lost both of them.
Oh, made the finals.
The finals. Just to come in second twice is kind of. There's only a handful of players that have done that. More than I named, but those are the 2 first ones to do it. So,
it wouldn't surprise me to see one of those get.
I'll go on the record.
Speaking of which, there it goes. He's getting those
fair enough. I mean, when you look at the number of top 8s he had versus the number of Pro Tours he played.
Yeah. He had 4 top 8s and he played.
It's very impressive.
18 something.
Yeah, very few Pro Tours that he played in. He top 8'd a lot.
Yeah. It's conceivable that.
And like you said, I mean, he definitely was right. When this video was going on, he was the first. He was the man.
He was the first superstar. I mean, I think Ule to me was the first sort of Pro-Tade-made superstar. Because Justice kind of walked in from World sort of being a superstar. But he really was, I mean, in my mind, there's really only a couple people that have ever sort of dominated the Pro Tour so much. It's everyone said, okay, this is the best player. I mean, Justice did it. I felt like Roddy did it. Obviously, Finkel and Buddha both did it, but
Quite an embarrassing
it's
way
a
to go.
handful of people. It's hard to be that good. Then it's okay. Look, he's the best guy.
That's it.
So,
That's
and the best part is each time, and Buddha probably ended this cycle, but like Justice did, it was pretty good. And then Uli would do it, goes, wow, even better than Justice. Then Finkel, even better than Rade. And they're like, Buddha, even better than Finkel. But after you win 7 Pro Tours, but maybe I'm not sure if the next one's going to.
And we not past Kai yet.
No, I mean, there's definitely some really good players. Although I don't think after Kai there's anybody who like definitively, like every single person would say this is the best guy. I mean, there's a couple of contenders, obviously. But and maybe in modern Pro Tour it's hard. You know what I'm saying? In order for that to be true, the top guy has to be so much better than number 2 that everyone goes, okay, look, you know.
Right.
And you almost have to kind of do what Kai did, which is like you just keep winning. And like it's very funny because I remember I would tease Randy because after he won, Kai won his second Pro Tour. I'm like, okay, is he the best player ever? And Randy's like, I don't know. You know, like, and I go, what does he have to do? And he goes, well, if he wins the next Pro Tour, and then he wins the next Pro Tour.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, now is he the best player ever?
It's better to wait until your opponent's turn to cast Swords of Posture.
It's fun. I love looking back at all the sort of all the stories and the.
Yeah,
I still haven't decided on my vote yet.
No, you will have no
Justice deserves or not.
Don't even think about casting.
For me, it's more a matter of like how what was the longevity?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he was great for the year that he was great for.
Which one? The
Justice. But the fact that he basically left.
Just by 18 is like 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's short given that. I agree. I like longevity too, but I don't know, I'm such a sort of Pro Tour historian fan that like just playing a role that meant something to me is kind of really important.
The presence.
Yeah, the presence. So I mean, like one of the things I liked about Roddy, one of the things I wrote for Roddy last year was like I was doing this thing of Pro Tour first, and like literally Roddy like
European superstar.
Yeah, Roddy was like half of them. Like the first guy to first Pro Player of the Year. Okay, first non-American to win, first guy to win 5 Pro Tours. Like he just did them all. You know, I just remember the time.
7 cards in his hand.
So he also won the first invitation. I have to give extra credit for winning invitation.
He's gonna have to get rid of a lot of cards.
But
and this is a difficult.
It's your vote.
Yeah, I realized last year, by the way, I could have saved myself a world of trouble if I just have taken Justice's name, replaced it with Chris Bakula, and just said, "Oh, I'm just voting for 5 invitational winners." I left it at that.
Here is that
puts down a Mishra's.
Mishra's and Wrath of God. Wow.
But yeah, I got to put my vote together because.
The disenchantment.
Actually, I'm not sure when this actually goes up, but very near to this going up, I have to make my official ballot for this year. So I'm still sorting it out, but I got to write it soon.
And he doesn't have the 2 blue to cast the counterspell.
But neither of these guys are on the ballot. I think people are watching.
Can cast the Wrath of God.
Lestree, I just didn't play long enough.
Yeah, Loconto, I mean.
Loconto came back. He played for a while.
Played a little, but didn't really do anything after this.
Yeah, this was his sort of shining moment.
Now here they're both equal at 3 lands.
It's funny because the top 8 had a lot of names
play
in
the
it.
strip mine,
but
play the straight arrows, and then if Lestree plays out
the most
4th
successful person.
land,
I mean, obviously Justice went on to win 2 4 top 8s. Baxter had 2 top 8s, I think.
In response,
he top 8 in Dallas too.
The same maneuver that Mark Hernandez.
Yeah, Hammer obviously went on to win LA.
Wow.
Baxter's kind of funny. Baxter has the honor of being the only guy to twice in top 8s get game losses to deck misregistration. In fact, he was on Scott John's team for a while, PCL. Actually, your team. Actually left. And I know the team used to always double check his deck list because he could not be. He could not do it himself.
Cards that are easier to cast. However, that's not.
Yeah, Preston did top actually 4 back.
Just drew another Millstone.
Third one.
Oh no, he lost against. He was top 8 back to back top 8. He lost against Darwin, I believe.
Or the Lestree's deck is the more expensive deck with more expensive spells.
Oh, maybe he beat Darwin.
Black Vise out. There really has not been an effective.
Oh no, Darwin lost to Hammer. Yeah, the next top 8 was good too.
I mean,
the one with Hammer won.
He just cast the balance.
Like Darwin cast his first top 8. Scott's first top 8.
When Loconto had was it 6 cards in his hand, and now he draws
and then a few
Black
people like
Vise
Jeffrey
after
Woods,
he's already down.
Time
After
forgotten.
Used the balance.
I remember you, Jeffrey.
You know, mind twist him down to 2.
Look at Bill in the back.
Did he just draw that
almost falling asleep.
Oh, Joel did fall. I'm not sure where it is, but and I'm not sure if it's on camera. Joel actually fell asleep during one of the period of the finals. I don't think it's actually on any of the tape, but I remember when we were watching it, we're like, his eyes are closed.
Yeah, the game has gone on a long time.
See, Joel had a full. Bill had a full belly because he just got back from eating.
Cast Armageddon.
But
I remember Was Atlanta the one after this?
No, this, then LA, then Columbus, and then Worlds, and then Atlanta was after Worlds.
Sorry. Atlanta was the first one that I was employed.
Correct. Atlanta was the first one you were employed.
And I was doing basically what Bill was doing at Pro Tour Atlanta. But at Pro Tour Atlanta, they had the finals in a room, much like this little room we're sitting in now, where we're doing this podcast. And they had put up brand new vinyl banners all in the room. I mean, brand new. And I don't know if people know this, but brand new vinyl banners. They've been in this room all night. They emit gas, basically. They outgas. It's like the chemicals or whatever. So you'd spend time in this room and your head would just start spinning from being in this room with these brand new vinyl things, and you're there watching this play.
While you were doing that, so they were supposed to book a room for commentary, and something happened, they didn't get it. So literally, Justice and I, Mark Justice and I, for 12 hours did commentary. When I say a phone booth, they might think like I'm typing metaphorically. No, in an actual phone booth. And we almost called out for pizza in the middle of it because we thought it'd be funny to call for. We didn't do it, but we thought it'd be funny to call for pizza.
To the phone booth, please.
So we were in the phone booth, I figure. But it was kind of absurd. It's one of those absurd moments I look back on, like, what the heck?
12 hours of commentary in a phone booth with another man is absurd.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. Wow.
That's just an interesting commentary. He definitely. He was very sweet. For some reason, like if you were his teammate, like. He went off on Preston because Preston made a stupid play, but I remember going off on Preston because he sideboarded, like he just made his deck so like he just barely loses the first game and then changes his deck so he can't possibly win.
It's been hard to. I mean, you can talk about this a little bit, but hasn't it been hard to like find people to do good commentary?
Oh,
like,
yes.
A lot of people when they get in, they seem like, this is my moment to strike back into my adversaries and destroy them through commentary, and they've done that, and it's like, no, that's not what we want people to do.
For a while,
yeah, but look at that.
I used to rotate. Like for a while, I did the play-by-play, and then I would have different pros do color. And this is in the early days of the Pro Tour. And then we would rotate through them, and yeah, so many people would get in the booth and like they just changed. Like, what happened? You were a nice person, and they just, I don't know, they would just start going off, and you know. But
out comes a card that should be renamed Lestree's Bane.
So I think we're coming up near the end here.
And that's going to effectively cancel the Black Vise.
Yeah, I mean that's strong too because
the funny thing here is the at the end,
Bertrand could have won maybe if you cast that
they
on his hand as soon as he got up
so he's on stage and there's a bunch of his friends and it looks like this moment where like they're going to pick him up and carry him in the crowd. And then they realized there weren't enough of them. It didn't quite work out.
Yeah, look,
so
does he only have 2 cards left?
God,
Oh, Lestree. He's got more than 2, but he's almost done.
He doesn't want to have any turns go by.
So the best part is, that's what we look forward to, is after this game, I think we have an interview with the winner, then we have the music video from Duelist.
We know and Lestree don't that Loconto's got that Swords to Plowshares.
Viva La Diva. I forget what the song is called.
No, it's Swords.
Yeah, Swords. And Aratha got it.
Oh, wow. Either way, he wants to do it.
Because all Magic, videos should have a music video on them.
Yes.
And really, maybe it does belong right up front.
Maybe I was wrong to move it back to the credits. Oh, and by the way, during the Diva videos, you'll have a chance to see me pick my ear. I noticed that watching this weekend. It's a high point, but I don't know why the shot.
But the serrated arrows that Loconto has out,
which shut him down.
It's like I'm interviewing.
Yeah, you just squish it right away.
Squish it like a ball.
Okay, there's a high professional here.
We'll see what happens.
He'll probably be getting to it.
Armageddon, baby.
It's interesting that the serrated arrows right now is causing.
The funny thing about this is Lestree, like, one of the things that I noticed about the French in the early days is when they get in a situation where they were most likely going to lose, they would just quit. Like, I remember there was a play with Hernandez, like one of the games in the finals against Blumke in 95 Worlds, like, he had an out. Like, if he had drawn a certain card, then, I mean, he had to draw the specific card, and his deck was pretty big, but, like, he actually gave up before he was, like, mathematically gone. And I thought it was very bizarre, and someone explained to me that, like, I'm sort of French, you know.
You've mostly defeated me.
Like, I've essentially lost.
On a run.
So, or maybe it was just Hernandez. I don't know. I just find I remember it being quirky to, like,
Draws, he looks
that
like
he,
Soul Knight Temple.
Another one.
he gave up before he 100% had lost.
He
looks at both cards.
He looks at both cards that he has left.
And technically, you can't do that with the Sylvan Library. You have to be able to look at 3 or
down to the last 2 cards.
1.
I don't think.
Okay, I'll make a bold prediction. I think Loconto's going to
No,
take
at
this.
this point, I don't think so. It looks like
you're right.
Loconto's got this wrapped up.
Wow. There is.
It's also funny how they were trying to get the nickname Loco, Michael Loco, and then they're really stuck. Like Hammer stuck.
Yep, that's
Loco,
it. Yep, that's it.
not so much.
The straight concedes the match.
Which is also kind of funny because Loco is Spanish for crazy.
Has just become the first.
Oh, there it is. There it
winner of
is.
the tournament.
The first champ.
Excellent.
Wow, look at it. There they
And the hug. We don't get a lot of hugs.
Man hug.
We don't get a lot of hugs anymore in high-end play. Yeah, this is like he kind of goes like, oh, lift him up. No, not really.
Excellent play. That third match.
I didn't know he was such good buddies with Hammer.
I mean, they're all New England. I mean, I think the reality was that they knew each other. I don't think they were great friends, but they definitely were all New England. This is all the New England crowd here.
Right.
So, and we do an interview. So, Lestree was pretty happy. For someone who lost, he was actually pretty happy. And,
is that Glenn Elliott?
Glenn Elliott is, another R&D member doing the interview there. Which is funny because you see him interview there, and then you see me doing an interview with him back up the stage. I'm not quite sure what happened there. That's me on stage. A young me.
Who's the person holding the mic?
Eric, he's in customer service. I don't know his last name. If you look in the credits, his name will be in the credits. It's Eric, but I don't. It's not someone I worked with. He had some acting experience, so
you're hired.
And the funny thing is, of the commentary, I was the technical guy. Like I was the R&D guy supposed to.
Just a lot of fun, and you guys are great. I mean, it was just really.
Yeah, this is where we did commentary. This afterwards was like the award stage was where we did commentary, and we brought them up. And
I'll be there. I'll be there.
And for some reason, it's two of us interviewing.
Runner-up and finalists.
So young.
Yes, so young.
And how much did they win?
The two of them are going to be splitting a combined total of $17,000, taking home each $8,500.
Okay.
Okay.
The other thing is funny how excited we were about between them won $17,000, which at the time was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, Viva la Diva, under my wheels.
Greatest Hits Volume 1.
Yes. So a lot of this is we just took shots that we'd used from different places during the video. And
that's neat.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly who edited. I must have edited this, I guess. Although the shot of me picking my ear, I don't know. There's you playing, young Henry playing. Yeah,
he was the guy.
He's a producer. So yeah, this is director.
Director, very nice.
On the box, I'm not listed because it was done before. The credits were done before we had finished. A lot of pointing.
Yeah.
I think there's a little sequence of pointing.
Yeah, sure.
So, well, I'm the writer.
Writer and director.
Writer and director. I'm a up and comer. I like show concepts on these credits are. There's the Land Tax guy. See, color commentator.
This is Viva la Diva we're hearing now.
Yes, this is Viva la Diva.
So did she just want the song, or was there a video that she wanted?
No, she just wanted the song. She knew we would cut images. Magical technical assistant Andrew Finch, who now is one of the directors in R&D. That's fine. Jerry Rubin still builds sets to this day.
Does a great job too.
Yep.
But you were a technical advisor.
Yeah, and floor director. I did a lot.
You wore many hats.
So.
A music video. Lisa was the director of the music video.
Under my wheels. So we thanked the Puck Building, the judges, the match team, the Duelist. Everybody gets thanked. Corey Smith, last time he was Andrew took over the very next event. Some of these names I've not seen in forever.
Judges.
So anyway, we're wrapping up here.
Referees.
This has been fun, sort of reminiscing and seeing. So it definitely was.
Nice trip down there. Trademark.
Anyway, but yeah, this is fun. Like I said, I pulled this video out this weekend. It was a blast. Sort of brought back a lot of memories. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this as much as we have.
Yep. Thanks. This is Henry Stern.
Mark Rosewater, thanks for joining us.
Yep.